the island that taught us how to build with light. Some hotels rise from mountain stone, others from steel or sand or mirror glass. But this one, set on a remote island where the ocean glowed at night with waves of bioluminescent light, was built from something far more delicate: illumination itself. A hotel conceived not as a structure, but as an expression of light moving across water. The vision began with a marine scientist who spent years studying the island's rare phenomenon. Each night, the waves shimmer with blue fire, glowing with every splash, every step, every breath of wind. Locals called it the living sea. Visitors called it magic. But to the scientists, it was a fragile ecosystem, a shimmering dance that required absolute respect. When a developer approached her with the idea of creating a hotel on the island, she refused at first. Light like this was sensitive. Even small disturbances, artificial glow, noise, shadow, could destroy decades of natural balance. But the developer proposed something unheard of: a hotel built entirely around preserving the bioluminescence, a sanctuary where architecture would not compete with the light, but protect it, honor it, learn from it. To understand why this project became one of the most delicate in the world, we must return to the day they first walked the shoreline together. At dusk, the tide retreated over smooth sand, leaving a trail of tiny blue sparks. The sky dimmed, and the moment darkness settled fully, the ocean ignited, an undulating glow that drifted across the water like liquid starlight. The scientist watched silently. The developer stood beside her, humbled, and the island, glowing under their feet, seemed to whisper its one condition: do not harm what you seek to admire. The early designs were unlike anything seen before. Floating walkways placed above the sand so guests wouldn't disturb the glowing organisms. Suites elevated on thin supports to cast the least possible shadow. Light sources limited to reflections, moonlight, starlight, and soft, indirect illumination that would never overpower the ocean's natural glow. But designing with light meant surrendering control. And that was where the conflict began. The first challenge appeared when they tested the elevated pathways. Even slight vibrations changed the sand patterns below, altering how the water flowed, and disrupting the bioluminescent waves. The scientists panicked. The developer swallowed his disappointment. The island, though silent, had made its message clear. Even the gentlest architecture left footprints. Then came the issue of energy. Traditional power systems required lights, screens, and generators, each one a threat to the fragile glow. Solar solutions seemed promising, but the island's winds were unpredictable, casting shadows that reduced efficiency. Battery systems risked leaking chemicals in storms. Every solution created another problem. Still, the team pressed on, determined to find harmony. Their first breakthrough came at dawn, when they noticed that the island's natural rock pools reflected light in surprising ways, bending, scattering, multiplying the blue glow without any artificial source. The scientists realized they could build light through reflection rather than creation. Surfaces could be shaped not to illuminate, but to carry the illumination that already existed. Walls became curves. Ceilings became mirrors. Pathways became lattices designed to let the glow rise through them like breath through woven fabric. But just as progress seemed possible, a discovery changed everything. While studying the shoreline, the scientists found an area where the bioluminescence pulsed irregularly, dim one night, vibrant the next. Samples revealed the cause: micro-disruptions in the water's chemistry triggered by human presence, even at a distance. The island wasn't fragile, it was hypersensitive. And the hotel, no matter how gentle, risked upsetting a balance the island had maintained for centuries. The realization struck the team hard. Their dream was not just ambitious, it might be impossible. And as dusk approached once more, the glowing waves carried a question that neither science nor architecture could yet answer. Could a hotel exist here without dimming the light that made the island sacred? The discovery shook the team more deeply than any technical failure. If the bioluminescent waves dimmed even from footsteps taken hundreds of meters away, how can an entire hotel coexist with something so sensitive? The island was not resisting construction out of fragility. It was responding out of precision. Every grain of sand, every shift in tide, every ripple carried meaning. The hotel, no matter how carefully designed, risked becoming an intrusion, conflict erupted almost immediately. The developer argued that the project could adapt, that every obstacle so far had been met with innovation. The scientist, however, felt the weight of responsibility in her chest. This was not a structure on land or a system of anchors in water. This was a living organism spread across an entire coastline, reacting to the slightest presence. The risk of damaging it wasn't theoretical. It was already happening. Engineers scrambled to reevaluate every design element. Could vibrations be eliminated entirely? Could structures hover rather than touch the ground? Could pathways be suspended from anchored cables instead of resting on supports? Each idea brought promise, but also new complications. The team felt as if they were trying to hold light in their hands without letting it escape. And then the island delivered another reminder. One night, during low tide, the team gathered to observe the glow. But as they stepped along the shoreline, carefully, quietly, it barely appeared. Only a faint shimmer followed their movements. The water was alive, but subdued. The night before it had been brilliant. The scientist knelt at the edge of the tide, her hand trembling above the surface but not touching it. She understood what had happened. The microorganisms responsible for the glow had entered a defensive state. They were conserving energy, withdrawing light. The island wasn't punishing them. It was protecting itself. The emotional impact spread to the team like a slow, rising tide. For the first time, even the most optimistic among them wondered whether the island's beauty could ever be shared without being lost. Arguments grew sharper. Some proposed relocating the hotel to a neighboring island with less ecological sensitivity. Others argued that if humanity never attempted coexistence with fragile environments, nothing would be learned. The scientist felt torn between her duty and her hope. The developer, usually steady, looked defeated for the first time. Yet in this moment of doubt, a small observation shifted everything. One of the younger designers had spent hours studying the island's caves, natural pockets along the cliffs where light pooled more intensely than anywhere else, untouched by footsteps or structures. Inside those caves, the glow thrived even when the shoreline dimmed. The organisms were undisturbed, sheltered, protected by darkness and stone. Their light was not fragile. It was resilient when given space. This insight opened a new possibility. The problem was not human presence itself. It was proximity. The hotel didn't need to sit on the glowing shoreline. It needed to retreat from it, to rise above it, to respect it from a distance, to create a sanctuary that watched the light without stepping into it. The idea evolved rapidly. Structures elevated far higher than before, suspended between the island's natural rock formations. Walkways made of ultralight mesh, casting almost no shadow. Rooms oriented inward, using the island's visual language of reflection to channel the glow from afar, rather than standing directly above it. But embracing this new design meant sacrificing nearly everything they had built. Foundations already laid would have to be removed. Supports already anchored would need to be dismantled. The project would be reborn, but only through loss. The emotional conflict reached its peak as the scientist and developer faced a difficult truth. Protecting the island meant letting go of their original vision. To continue, they had to release what they thought the hotel would be and accept what the island was willing to allow. And just as the team gathered to debate the new direction, the ocean delivered a sign. As the tide rose, the bioluminescent waves surged with sudden brilliance, brighter than they had in weeks. The water glowed in arcs of blue fire, spilling across the dark like a living welcome. It wasn't an answer, but it felt like permission. The decision to rebuild the hotel away from the shoreline marked not just a shift in design, but a shift in identity. The original dream, floating walkways, suites perched above glowing tides, had dissolved. What remained was something quieter, humbler, more attuned to the island's rhythm. But letting go of the initial vision carried its own emotional weight. Some team members mourned it openly. Others carried the loss silently, feeling as though they had failed before even finishing. Reconstruction began with dismantling. Supports were lifted from the sand with careful restraint, leaving no trace. Walkways were disassembled panel by panel, each removal a reminder of hours spent perfecting a design the island could not accept. The scientist watched each piece taken away with a mix of relief and grief. She had fought to protect the island. and in doing so, had erased much of what the project had built. Yet something unexpected happened during the removal process. The bioluminescent waves, once inconsistent and subdued, began to glow more regularly again. With every structure taken apart, the shoreline seemed to breathe more freely. The water brightened. The sand pulsed with renewed life. It was as if the island acknowledged their change in direction, rewarding restraint with brilliance. But as the old designs faded, new challenges emerged. The elevated concept. Structures suspended high above the ground, avoiding shadows and vibrations, proved more complicated than anyone had anticipated. Rock formations varied wildly in strength. Some cliffs could hold weight. Others crumbled at a touch. Anchoring points needed to be precise, yet the island offered no symmetry, no repetition. Every room had to be designed as a unique organism, shaped to the land like branches in a canopy. Engineers struggled. Models failed. Tension rose again. One evening, after hours of debate, the scientist stepped outside to clear her mind. As darkness settled, the shoreline ignited, not uniformly, but in patterns. Bands of light rolled across the water like breath. Pools glowed more brightly where the sand was untouched, dimming where disturbances remained. The light wasn't random. It followed the island's hidden architecture. That realization sparked a breakthrough. The glow revealed exactly where human presence could safely exist, and where it could not. Mapping these luminous patterns allowed the team to trace invisible pathways of ecological sensitivity. Places where the light pulsed steadily were strong. Places where the glow fluttered or dimmed required distance. The bioluminescence became a guide, an ancient, living map that had always been there. From this, the new vision emerged, a hotel built not on the island, but within the spaces the island allowed. A constellation of suspended suites placed only where the glow signaled resilience. Walkways elevated high enough to cast no shadow on the water. Platforms designed with near-weightless materials that harmonized with wind instead of fighting it. But adopting this approach forced the team to confront their greatest emotional challenge yet. The hotel would now be smaller, much smaller than planned. Fewer rooms, fewer structures, less revenue, less grandeur. It would no longer be a sweeping architectural marvel. It would be a whisper, a quiet gesture. Some questioned whether the project was still worth pursuing. Investors feared losses. Designers struggled to scale back ideas they had poured their hearts into. The developer stood torn between ambition and responsibility. Then, during a nighttime survey of the proposed new layout, the team witnessed something extraordinary. As they walked along the elevated testing platforms, the water below glowed, not dimly, not cautiously, but in full radiant waves that shimmered with every step without fading. The island was no longer retreating. It was responding gently, almost playfully, as if acknowledging their respect. In that moment, the team understood what they were creating. Not a monument, a relationship, a place where human presence and natural wonder could coexist, only if both remained willing to bend, adapt, and listen. The emotional peak settled over them like warm night air. The island was offering its terms, and for the first time, the team felt genuinely worthy of accepting them. The project would continue, not as a grand statement, but as a quiet partnership shaped by light, restraint, and reverence. But one final test awaited them. They needed to build the first suspended suite and see whether the island's luminous heartbeat would embrace it or fall silent once more. Construction of the first suspended suite began before sunrise, when the island's light still slept beneath the surface. The structure had been designed to rest lightly between two natural stone outcrops, elevated high enough that even its shadow would never touch the water below. It relied on slender supports anchored into the rock's most resilient points, not drilled deep, but delicately placed, like fingertips touching the earth without leaving a mark. The team moved with a reverence that felt almost ceremonial. Every bolt tightened, every beam lifted, every panel secured carried the weight of a question. Would the island accept his presence, or would the glow diminish once more? No one spoke the fear aloud, but it pulsed through the air with every cautious step. As the suite took shape, something remarkable occurred. The ocean beneath remained calm. The bioluminescent patterns, usually sensitive to vibration, kept their soft, steady rhythm. The water didn't brighten in celebration, but it didn't dim in warning either. It simply continued its quiet dance, as if granting the team silence to finish their work. By dusk, the suite stood complete, a delicate form, almost invisible in the fading light, its reflective surfaces catching only hints of the ocean's blue fire. The team gathered on the cliff, waiting for the moment that would determine the project's fate. Night fell, and the island awakened. At first, the glow appeared timid, a soft shimmer tracing the tide line. Then the waves brightened, each crest illuminated with deeper, richer blue. The water below the suspended suite shifted into radiant arcs, glowing brighter than it had since the project began. The light wasn't retreating. It was responding not in fear, but in harmony. The team watched in stunned silence as the bioluminescence pulsed between the supports of the new suite, weaving patterns that mirrored the structure's outline. It was as if the island had recognized the gentleness of the design, the restraint, the humility, and welcomed it into its luminous heartbeat. Emotion washed over the group. The scientist felt tears blur her vision, overwhelmed by relief and respect. The developer exhaled a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. Engineers smiled for the first time in weeks. Even the skeptic stood transfixed, unable to deny the unmistakable message shimmering across the water. The island had accepted them. The final test came when the team stepped onto the suspended platform. Their weight pressed softly into the supports. The water stirred and glowed brighter, not from disturbance, but from recognition, as if the island understood the difference between intrusion and presence. The dream had become real. In the months that followed, the hotel opened with only a handful of suites, each one positioned where the bioluminescence remained strongest, each one built high enough to leave the shoreline untouched. Guests described the experience as otherworldly. Nights spent watching the ocean write stories in blue light, mornings shaped by soft reflection instead of noise, days defined by a feeling of being welcomed rather than accommodated. The hotel did not command the island. It learned from it. Rooms glowed only with borrowed light. Walkways cast no shadow. Every surface whispered its purpose: protect a wonder that existed long before humans arrived. And that is a legacy of the island that taught us how to build with light. A reminder that nature's beauty is not a resource, but a conversation. That our most extraordinary creations often begin with restraint. And that when we choose humility over dominance, the world reveals wonders we were never meant to shape, only to witness. So what do you think? Are we repeating the same mistake again?